is everywhere and constantly on the rise. Quick and easy cases are solved daily, but what of those more sinister and cold cases that remain to be solved? Join host Ashley and Candy as they dive into the horror of some of these cases and shed some light on what is truly behind the realm of darkness. Now, here are your hosts of Realm of Darkness, Ashley Moreno and Candy Howard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Realm. Tonight, unfortunately, Candy will not be joining us. She is traveling to, I believe, Chicago right now to head out to an investigation for the weekend. But she'll be back next week. So I'm super excited. I was kind of geeking out backstage, but I have a really, really exciting and important guest tonight. You guys know him because he is the founder of WLTK-DB. He is the author of The Haunted Voice, which is an incredible book. So everybody help me welcome Todd Bates. That's what we need to
Hey,
little
Ashley.
sound.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited. So how are you? Let's start out by that.
I'm doing good. I'm keeping busy. I'm keeping out of trouble. Everything's going great. I mean, the pollen count's high. Other than that, I'm doing good.
Well, good. So I have to say, as soon as I saw that you came out with this book, I had to get it. We've been friends for a while, and just being on the show, knowing you. So I kind of want to dive right into it because this book has a little bit of everything. It has paranormal, it has corrections, it has a little bit of true crime, and even I've mentioned to you previous, like a little therapy book. At least I did. I took it that way because some of the quotes that you have in there are just incredible. So, of course, with being true crime, let's dive right into it. So, in the book, I read that you had been in corrections for a while, and that you had worked in it, and you got to see all kinds of crazy, ridiculous things. So, for people that don't know what that's like, tell us about it.
I would love to, and this is actually the first time I've ever spoke about it. My corrections career. I was a corrections officer for 6 years in a supermax prison. Started out as a green rookie driving around the perimeter, and then I wanted to work a cell house.
Oh.
So what do I choose at that age? The worst. So I worked the worst cell house on the left wing. I'll never forget it. And I worked every day for 8 hours, then 12 hours, and I would work overtime and so forth. Got used. It almost became a second home. Scary enough. Well, they put me in charge of that cell house.
Oh.
And this cell house was filled with gang members and rapists and thugs and you lifers, you name. One guy had 350 years. I mean, how long is that?
At that point, why not just kind of sentence them to death row if you're giving them 350 years?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I'm sure being and working that block, you probably saw some heinous things and some crazy things.
They are the most manipulative people that I've ever come across. They have nothing but time. One day, it was a nice quiet day at first. On the shift started. We get to the cell house and it's too quiet. So we know something is about to happen because all of their cuff ports, which are their food slots, all of them are closed, and that's not normal. So they're in there doing certain things, getting certain things ready. Well, it was lunchtime. The doors roll open, and they usually do them a tier at a time. Well, these were done one tier. Well, they stepped out fully dressed. It reminded me of the movie Escape from Alcatraz, how they came out and they had the button shirts and jeans. They were all dressed in their blues. The Aryans were.
Yeah.
And then so were the African Americans. So I knew something was about to happen. So of course we watched it, and there was a little scuffle in the corner by the shower, and of course you call that out. Well, it went gangbusters. And thankfully that day I'm working the control pod where I wasn't down on the floor.
Yeah.
But they went nuts. They were grabbing mop handles, ringers. They would take the ringers off the mop, whatever it took to beat each other with, and they were going to town. Well, the first responders get there. A little pepper spray is not going to do anything.
No.
So it just kind of makes it worse. So of course the weapons team is called, and I had just so happened to be on the weapons team that night, and my job was to shoot what's called a 308 gas gun, and it holds 5 wooden blocks. And those blocks bounce on the concrete, and they just go bing, 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 bing. And whenever they hit, they normally knock unconscious. But
these guys,
the captain came in, and we had this little captain. This captain must have been 4'11", the tiniest man I'd ever seen, but the mightiest man. But he came in. He says, "Todd, fire right over there in that corner." Okay. So I just shoot the thing, and they all ran like cockroaches to the cell house and everything. And it was a crazy moment. That was my scariest moment in there, but they all locked down, and everything was very, very quick ending. But I'll never forget that captain's courage.
And did anybody, hopefully nobody got hurt in that instant or in that situation?
No, nobody got hurt. It was they're non-lethal weapons.
Well, I mean, like the workers at least, and the security guards, and
yeah,
those are the people I care about.
The lethal weapons, they're held in the towers and in the armory and places like that. We were only allowed to carry the non-lethal weapons, but they're non-lethal. They leave a massive bruise, though. I mean, a pretty good sized bruise. There's other types of weapons they use in corrections that shoot plastic bullets. They shoot bean bags. We had stun shields, those things, and we all had to be tested. We all had to be certified to use those. So we all had to be shot with each one of these weapons.
Oh gosh.
Oh, it was fun times. It was horrible.
Yeah.
The stun shield, I peed myself. It happens.
Well, I mean, I know people do that just by getting tased. I couldn't imagine. Oh my. So what made you want to get into corrections?
All of my life, I'd always wanted to work either law enforcement or broadcasting. Those were my 2 dream jobs.
And they're 2 completely different stuff.
Yeah, 2 completely different things.
Yeah.
And law conservation officer, that was my dream job. Mm-hmm. And corrections was my stepping stone. I started in security, worked into corrections, and was just about to get hired on to a local police department when all this happened.
Oh my God.
And it ended my career, of course. So I had to choose the other route, which was radio. And I'll never look back.
And I know some of the viewers, I am sure, probably read the book, but for the ones who haven't quite gotten it yet, would you mind elaborating on why you're no longer in corrections and kind of how that, I'm going to say a negative situation, but a positive thing came out of it, and
it was the best thing that had ever happened to me.
Which is crazy. When I was reading it, I mean, of course, I know you now and I know all the things that you've done. But when I was reading it and I saw what the possible sentence was, like my heart sank and I was like, and I know it didn't happen, but I was just like, oh my God, I could not even imagine, 1, being put in that position, 2, the detail that you were given before giving that ultimatum, and then the possible sensing that you had to face. And I know everyone in here is like, what is she talking
They're like,
about?
what is
And
she talking about?
I'll let Todd tell you, but
I'll tell them. I mean, the
I
book
mean,
has more detail, but I'll
yeah,
tell them in detail the
I
best
mean,
I can.
I was reading it. I read the entire book in one sitting. I could not put it down.
It was hell. The day it happened, like I said, I ran that cell house, so we were doing random shakedowns, and I came across this inmate cell that he was known to have contraband. It was no big deal. You know, we really never did anything to them. We just took it. Well, this time he threw a huge fit.
And was it anything major that he was going to get like extra sentencing, or he just...
It was a bunch of pills.
Okay.
It was a bunch of pills, and that to them is a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And those, you know, I never worried about tobacco.
Mhm.
I never worried about marijuana, you know, but the things that concerned me were pills because those kill people. So I
Mhm.
took them, and he was so upset, and he was right outside. He was handcuffed outside his cell, and he said, "That's okay, Bates. One of these days you'll see what it's like behind bars." And I'm just, you know, I hear death threats every day. Well, it was probably, I would say 3-4 days, and this car kept driving by the house. It was a beige car. Never seen it before. Never, because I lived in a very small town, only 1,400 people. No one's been down that, and they kept driving by. 2 days after that or so, one of his cronies came down and asked how my wife at the time was doing. And of course, I just tell them to go back to their cell, all that stuff. You know, you write them up, all that jazz. And I just sat there and thought for a moment, okay, where could he have gotten that information? She had been recently in the paper over some sexual harassment charge at the Capitol building. Maybe he got it from there. Okay. And it was about a week after this. The car was driving back and forth, back and forth. I get the same crony comes down. Hey, that's a nice deck fence you're building there alongside your house. Looks pretty nice. What's that cost? And then, you know, again, you keep that stone face and you can't say anything to them because you feed into their bowl.
Yeah.
So you have to remain stone faced, like, what in the world are you? Oh, sure. Yeah, it's great. You know, because I never wore a ring. I never wore anything like that.
Yeah. And
Now,
how this information, like that would be my thing is.
it was about 2 weeks after when they came down. And what did it was when he said, "How's your daughter Casey doing?"
He knew her name.
He knew her name.
Oh my. Oh, I just got goosebumps on that.
And my immediate, and keep in mind, before I never talked to these people, get out of my face. Leave me alone. My first words were, "What do you want?"
Wow.
It just came to me. I had to say it. They had gotten me at my worst. So what do you want? So that's what happened. And I had to bring him in a package, which I thought was tobacco.
And they never told you what was in it. Wow.
No, I was told to meet them at a gas station. And I went there. I was in full uniform on my way to work. Went to the gas station. Was sitting there. A blonde female opened my car door. Sat down and said, "Do you know blah, blah, blah?" I said, "Yeah." "Could you give this to him for me?" And I grabbed it. Possession.
Oh.
grabbed it underneath, put it underneath my seat. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't look at it. It could have been a bologna sandwich. I don't know.
Yeah.
So she gets out. I put the car in reverse. Okay, let's go to work. Todd, are you really going to do this? Because I had to stop at the locker room, so I would have had more time to think, because I had been thinking and making myself sick about this for months. And I go to put the car in reverse, and all of these police officers came out of nowhere. They came out of the convenience store. They came out of the fields. They came off the highway and pulled me from my car, threw me on the hood, put guns to my head, threw me in the back of the cruiser. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, knowing what I did was wrong. The intent, this is the karma. This is what happens. This is law. I broke it.
But you were, but on the other side, you were, they knew your house. They knew.
Yeah, they knew everything about me, and it was getting bad, because working what I did to get away from that individual because of the harassment that I was getting, because I'd kept saying, okay, I'll go bring it in. I'll take care of the package. And then I would talk myself out of it. This went on for about a week. And I transferred to the secured housing unit, which is where they're locked down 23 hours a day. So I felt relieved there. I had time to think on what I was going to do. And that's when I knew what I was doing was dead wrong. Trafficking? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's a Class C felony. That's a horrible thing to do. But I was going to do that to save my family, and I would do it again.
Yeah.
That's what made me who I am. But I did that, and of course was arrested and sentenced to 3 years. And
and that it baffles my mind, because you tell a little bit in the book about what the sentencing you were looking at versus what you got. But at the end of the day, like, this is where, and I'm sure people are going to be mad at me, but I think that corrections in the justice system is so screwed up.
Corrupt.
Yes, because you, who has no record, and I'm sure at some point you told them your reasoning behind it. And, if I was in that scenario where somebody knew my son's name, I would absolutely do the same exact thing. Any parent's going to do what they have to do to save their family and their children. And the fact that they did not give you any kind of leniency, it baffles my mind. And the fact that even the guy admitted to what he did to you. And
they wanted to use me as an example. They wanted to use me as a scapegoat. It wasn't 12 months after my incarceration, my sentencing, and this was one of the happiest days of my life. A member of their internal affairs department was arrested for trafficking cocaine and it was all part of this big ring.
Was it the same situation, or was this person legitimately?
No, this person legitimately did. Yeah. So it happens. It's karma. And that's how I had to look at it, because it kicked my ass. Being in prison kicked my ass.
Yeah.
It broke every single being, my soul. It was ripped out. I just had a shell.
Yeah.
And, going through that, though, is when a lot of the spiritual things started to hit, because all the muck was gone. Mm-hmm. It was put in the back of my mind, because it was so fresh, so new. Here I am laying in a cell for 24 hours a day with a camera on me. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's like being sent to your room, but you can't leave. And then working both sides, they had to put me under lock and key. I've been trained to get out of the electronic cells.
Yeah.
So I had to be put under lock, and that's scary. And it broke me.
Well, and also, for your safety, because I know they say a lot of police officers or correctional officers that do get arrested, sometimes they're targets for people who were upset with them in the system originally. So, I mean, I could not imagine being locked in a cell for 23 hours a day and you're just sitting there with your thoughts.
Just have your thoughts. I had thoughts and medical books. I had people that I went to training with that fed me.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. And we would sit there and talk, of course.
Yeah.
But it was very humbling. Because my ego back then was so huge, I would topple over. It was huge. And I needed that to happen. I needed it to happen.
There's comment bookends I can put up. Yeah, that's how I was like, I swear I'm paying attention. I'm just trying to, they're trying to see the book. And at the end of the episode, we'll tell you guys where you can get the book. Todd has links on his social media. We can put it on mine, but we'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, being in your cell for 23 hours, like you said, it's almost like where you said that spirituality started. It's almost like a different form of shadow work.
It was an awakening. It was definitely an awakening, because I was sitting there. And before then, I had had a little bit of problem with alcohol, but it wasn't until after I got out that it got worse. But I sat there and would try and reconnect with my core, try and reboot myself, because I felt hopeless. I felt like I was nothing. I had another inmate tell me, "Well, Bates, with that record, you're never going to work a job again. So enjoy that." And you hear these things. And you get bullied in prison just like you would anywhere else. Now, no one bothered me. They knew I was a corrections officer. No one bothered me. For 30 minutes a day, I would be able to watch TV with, 2 other guys that sat out there, and we'd talk and hang out and stuff. It wasn't the end of the world. I had social time, but it was that 23 hours I was locked in there that drives you nuts. And that's what broke me. But it had to. I had to be rebooted. My mentality had to change. My personality had to change. My entire being had to change. I get out and I didn't readapt to society very well whatsoever.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that sometimes they offer tools and guidance and help, but do you think that they offer the proper help and the proper guidance to get someone acclimated back into, just standard life? Because 23 hours a day in a cell, that's stripping everything from you.
It did. And today's standards, no. Yeah. I don't think they would help as much. Back then they did. I had a counselor that came to my house daily, would pick me up, take me out. Even if we went and had a piece of pie at a restaurant, he reintroduced me to society. They disabled me. Yeah. I was not able to do anything socially, and it was horrible. And I fought like hell to get off of that in 2012. But slowly, after kind of snapping a little bit, going through rehab, going through some mental hospitals, getting the correct medication for bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, all the fun stuff, getting on the correct medication, that's when I started stepping up. That's when I started waking up. That's when I got into the paranormal. And that is what changed my life forever.
And, I'm glad you brought that up, because I know, between the two of us, we know numerous amounts of people in the paranormal field. And it seems like the going rate is that the people who tend to be very interested in the paranormal are those who have suffered some type of tragedy in their life,
Yeah.
whether that be like the situation that you went through, or, you know, somebody losing somebody very important to them at a young age, or abuse, or, you know, neglect. And do you think that situation that you went through and having to kind of almost re-find yourself, do you think that pushed you to be a little bit more accepting of the paranormal?
Yeah. It made me odd.
Yeah.
It made me,
We all are a little odd,
yep.
aren't we?
It made me one of those people where people take a second look, or don't communicate with, or don't associate with, because of my past. It made me one of those type people. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and one of the things, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but you know, just reading the book and reading what happened to you, it makes you really want to step back and kind of not read somebody at a glance, you know, like job applications and things like that. You see that, oh, somebody might have a felony. And when you hear felony, you instantly think worst case scenario. And people will judge people on that. But, you know, giving that benefit of the doubt and hearing their side of the story and what happened, because, like, to me, knowing your story, you had no option.
I didn't. I was
No.
looking. I was facing 57 years, 2 Class A felonies.
But you were doing what you had to do to protect your family.
For protecting my family.
Yes.
You know, this was happening to me, and it cost a lot of money. It cost several $1,000s for the prosecutor to say, you know what, possession sounds good. Ridiculous.
See, and I don't know how that couldn't have been, I don't know the proper terms, but like getting set up and the threats, and how is that any different than what you went through? I mean, to bring your daughter's name into it, they knew exactly what they were doing. And they knew that once they had her name, they had you.
And I couldn't go to internal affairs. They're just as crooked. You can't go to anybody. They tell you that they know these things. They paid another officer to get my information from personnel.
That's how they found out?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And how this officer, whoever this officer is, how they get my information from personnel, is what I want to know. So these are things that, and mostly I just want people to know that it's a different world. And if you're in that field, be careful. Don't go around telling these people, hey, oh my goodness, I just got married. Isn't that great? They're not your friends. They're not your buddies. These people have nothing but time. They've done their crime. They've accepted it. And they have nothing but time to think about how to destroy your life or to manipulate you for money.
Well, and especially those people that are serving like 350 years, they're not going anywhere. So all they're doing is entertaining themselves in those situations and bringing people down with them. And it's terrible and it's awful. It breaks my heart.
They'll earn their 8-10 master's degrees while they're in there. And unfortunately, those will go to no use unless they write books. Some, I did run across some good guys in there. There were some decent guys. They were writing books. They were trying to better themselves. They realized what they did was wrong. And, they want to better themselves. And I commend them for that. But it's the ones that are idle, that are just thugs, that need some kind of other system, I think, other than corrections. I think they need some other kind of system.
Yeah. And I do think that that's somewhere where our justice system really lacks, is for people who do need, like mental evaluations or medication, or even just counselors to kind of work through any type of issues. Because I don't want to say most, but a lot of inmates do have dark pasts where they were either abused or sexually assaulted, and there's a reason for their darkness. But I don't think they ever get that opportunity to really find it. I mean, there are some people that are just complete a-holes.
Right.
They just like the thrill of it, which those people can we know how I feel about people like that.
Yeah, they can just take a leap.
Yeah, I feel like that disclaimer in the beginning is because of me.
I mean, it's life. We all have these issues. We all have these things inside that we're afraid if society finds out how they're going to treat us.
Mhm.
So I kind of I took this book and I spilled all my guts in this thing, all my vulnerabilities. Everything's in there because that's me. And if a person reads that and can relate to it, can say, oh, my uncle acted just like that.
Mhm.
They related to it, you know, it made amends for me.
Yes.
With the way I live in the present, moment to moment, I've burned so many bridges, Ashley, it's unreal. You know, I've got to make amends. I've got to better myself, always do the next right thing, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, but the positive aspect in all of that is, you found the paranormal and that was part of, I mean, you got into EVPs and then getting into the radio and having, the Haunted Voice as a station for a long time. I mean, you were able to, through your experiences, you were able to bring a bunch of people together. And even on WLTK-DB, I feel like, there's a lot of us that feel like we're outcasts or like we don't really belong because we're the weird people. We're the ones that like to talk to ghosts and go ghost hunting. But the station itself, we're like one big family. And, we're all a bunch of little weirdos in our little box and it works for us. So, I mean,
we're all like-minded weirdos.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's something like reading your book and, seeing the things that you've gone through and the struggles that you went through, but you made this safe haven of a station for all of us who may not have experienced something as horrible as you, but, all of us have some type of issues, trauma, tragedy, but you've made this safe place for us all to talk about it and be ourselves. And that's one thing where like, I put the book down. I was like, I just want to cry. I just want to hug you. I just want to all kinds of things.
Well, you know how people carry around bad karma. Karma comes around full circle.
Yeah.
This station helped me balance that bad karma by doing something good, by providing something for free for people to learn from. Sure, it's a service, but it's a platform. It is, and I had to do that to, again, make amends with myself and get that out there. You got to share that with another human being. Why not share it with the world?
And people are going to relate to it because you're honest, you're real, you're raw. And so that's where people are going to relate. And, one of the quotes, I know it's almost time for break, but one of the quotes that you had in the book that I absolutely loved was, you have nothing to fear from the dead, only the living. And when I read that, I'm like, that is so true. So many people are terrified of spirits and paranormal, but it's just research and understanding that there's something else out there. It's the living that are there.
That's where you run into your problems. Definitely the living, and you've got to watch your P's and Q's around them.
Yes.
Around spirits, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. They just want to communicate. It's the living that will stab you in the back. But with that, I do think it might be time to take a break if we're ready. I think that's a good.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Ashley.
Yeah.
I just made this today. We'll debut it on your show. It'll be fun. See what you guys think. It's the new book ad.
Perfect. We'll be right back. Okay, that's pretty badass. Sorry, natural language. That I like that. That's pretty cool.
That was fun.
That's cool. I like that. That has to stay on every week now.
Okay.
Deal.
Consider it done. Thank you.
Perfect. So anyway, getting back into the paranormal, again, when I was reading your book and some of the conversations I've had with other friends is, there are a lot of us that kind of suffer with mental illness and addiction and different, we'll say disabilities of an array of things. And, a lot of us have found that the paranormal is almost kind of like our own little medicine and like a healing factor for those. Do you feel that it kind of had that effect on you when you first started getting involved?
Wow. You're awesome at this stuff, Ashley. Yes.
Thanks.
Paranormal. At the moment, I was looking for someone to accept me because of what I was so rejected and tossed to the side and laughed at. And then I found the paranormal and this is no joke. I heard, really? So am I. And I felt this connection of no judgment.
Yeah.
And community. And back when I first came in, the community was so strong. I mean, we all met in chat rooms. We all shared data the best we could with what we had and dial up and all that fun stuff. But people talked, no one's worried about, getting the next Grammy or whatever. It was about research. It was about putting all these heads together. It was about, just community.
Yeah.
And it's still there for the most part. The only
is.
thing I see is slight separation, but that's anywhere, you know.
Well, and I know people talk about paradrama and community and all that. And I mean, I have, there's bad apples in anything that you get involved in, but most of my experience has been positive. There's been a lot of fantastic people. And I do think that we all kind of use it as a slight coping mechanism for whatever it is that we're struggling with, whether it's loss or, mental illness or addiction or even, people that are sleep deprived or, it's such an array of things. And we all kind of use it as a little bit of a coping mechanism and it works.
Yeah.
One of the things is just that it's kind of, it's like knowing that there's something else out there. It gives you something to look forward to. And when I was reading some of your book and seeing how you got into it, where you just kind of were invited on this investigation, you're like, yeah, sure. It's crazy because that's how it normally happens. And then you fall in love with it. And then you're, 10 years in, like, how did I get here?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I still talk to Jason every once in a while. He's one of my mentors, and he just kind of took me under his wing and said, Todd, you've got to try cassette recording. Or, and he taught me how to put it on the computer. And then from then on, it was, whoa, I got to find out more. I was like a sponge, so I'm reaching out to all these different people, Sarah, and, and I'm reading some things about some of the pioneers like Konstantin Raudiva, guys like that. I mean, these are people that a lot of the newer researchers, they have no idea.
No, a lot of people think it started with ghost hunters, and that's not the case.
Oh, shit.
Ghost hunters is great, but they are not the beginning of it. There are, just how it originated with Kate and Maggie Fox, which a lot of people don't know that's how it even started.
The Fox sisters, absolutely.
Yes. People think it started with the seance era, but it started somewhere.
So much, and Frederick Jurgensen captured something from his own mother on a reel-to-reel recorder, just recording bird sounds, and captured it.
Yeah.
And Sarah Estep brought it to the United States. A lot of people forget about her. She developed the ABC system, and we still use it to this day.
We do. Several teams that I've worked with still use the ABC system with with not only EVPs, but apparitions and different settings to get evidence. But I know that EVPs is one of your favorite things and kind of
Oh,
what you really dove into. So why? What was it about that just kind of sparked that little
what it
flame?
was, it's getting that answer, it's getting that response and not hearing it.
Yes.
And I got frustrated. I'm like, you're kidding me. Okay, something's up. I'm getting this thing on a digital, not getting it on a cassette, or I'm getting it on a cassette, not on a digital. I still can't hear the damn thing. So what's going on? And I became obsessed with it. I tried taking apart, and it worked too. I actually got a response. I took the microphone out of a damn analog recorder just to eliminate, and debunk, and I still got a response. Personally, I think, and I still use, and people will laugh, but some people still use them. I still use an analog recorder, still in my bag, but ready to go. A few tapes. Those things are a little pricey, but
Mhm.
they're good to go. And I still use that, not because it works, because what it does capture is more pronounced.
Mhm.
It's more audible. On a digital, you've got more whispers
Yes.
and things, so it's more audible. And plus, I think there's some way for them to imprint themselves, with a magnetic tape going across in that device. It hits that magnetic head, and you've got basically static electricity, magnetism. Who's
Mhm.
to say they can't throw a vibration onto that
True.
and say, help me, or this and that, just whatever onto there. Who's to say that can't happen? So I haven't figured that part out yet. And until I get an absolute on it, then I'll switch to something else. But I've got to get an absolute first.
So do you think that, because I know a lot of people assume that EVPs are always intelligent. Do you think it is possible that it could pick up intelligent and, like you said, imprinted more of like a residual?
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of residual. A lot of people visit cemeteries, and
Mhm.
I don't. There's right and wrongs with that. It's a good place to get used to being around death. Um,
Yeah.
but one thing I want people to understand is when you're recording over someone's grave and you get some kind of response, it may not be that person in that grave. It may be a grieving individual from the living that was
Yes.
around, leaving that residual energy.
Yes.
Um, so just, be wary, be mindful when it comes to things like that.
Yes.
Um,
Preach. That is what I have to say. I preach on that because I am a big believer that any type of strong emotion or any type of strong feeling, it imprints on the late because we're all energy. So I feel if you're crying or there's a tragedy, there's a car accident, or even extreme happiness, I feel that energy is caught in a moment in time, which would
mhm.
be residual. And it's not necessarily a haunting or a spirit. It can just be an imprint of energy from that extreme emotion in that time.
Yep. And it's energy. You see,
Mhm.
it can't be destroyed. It can only be transferred to
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of it. There
Yeah.
is a lot of it.
Yes.
So
Well,
who's to
Gettysburg.
say that places like these old buildings that people are investigating, they have the limestone foundations. There,
Yes.
there you go. There's a sponge right there.
Yes.
Bedrock, limestone. It's porous. They've proven that with the trumpet. Actually, it holds sound.
Well, that's
Um,
why I think with like Gettysburg, where people hear the cannons,
yes.
I laugh because I'm like, cannons aren't alive. They're not ghost cannons. So that's, just the energy and the emotion of what was going on. The cannons imprinted on the land. So you're going to
Yep.
hear these cannons, you're going to hear these gunshots because that's what was heard during that time when all of that fear and excitement and death and all of those emotions were mixed together. It's kind of like its own little portal.
I agree. And I actually captured an EVP to validate that, of a scene, a murder scene. It was a mafia hit. This was later to be found out. She was bludgeoned to death with a baseball bat. This guy was to burn the area, and he didn't know there were 2 kids.
Oh no.
Yes. So 2 kids were found in the closet holding hands. It was
horrifying. Oh my God, that's terrible.
So we didn't gain access. They gained us access to the front porch. They said we can sit on the front porch and do whatever we needed to do. And we captured something very heart-wrenching from that. The residual energy. You could hear the screams. You could hear the swing. You could hear the connection. You could hear a lot of different things in this file. And the wind blows over it a little bit, but it was one that taught me that this stuff can float anywhere, day, night, anywhere. It's the luck of the draw. It's like fishing. You just keep throwing that line in, and eventually you'll get a bite and just set the hook.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I wonder too. I know people talk about different dimensions and different planes. And, if those types of energy and those types of emotions are so strong that they can imprint in a moment and replay throughout time, I also, and this is how my brain works, is it possible to almost imprint like a movie? And that's some of the experiences that we're seeing when we see shadow figures or we see apparitions. Could it just be an imprint and they don't necessarily see us? Or could it be a completely different plane where this movie's playing out, but we're here and the wires cross and we're just experiencing what they're seeing and they don't even know we exist?
Yeah, there's an alternate universe that we're living simultaneously.
Yes.
And that gets complicated. You get into string theory.
Yes.
And you get into we need some kind of we need a different guest on here for that, because that gets into quantum physics. That gets tough. But this field with residual versus intelligence, for years I was skeptical on intelligence. I thought everything was residual because I was coming into this. I was 100% skeptic. I did believe in life on other planets, of course, but I was 100% skeptic of this. And it changed my mind after seeing a few things that I can't explain. But I would say the majority of the person coming into this field needs to keep that skepticism in the back of their mind. Don't be gullible. Don't go down the road and think, oh my goodness, that place looks haunted. It very well could be, but here's what could happen. You've already suggested that in your mind. So now it is. So now you could create what are called tulpas.
Yes.
You
Egregores.
could manifest a poltergeist.
Yes.
You can do a lot of things with this human mind, and some great people to talk about that. Of course, Lloyd Arbach, Randy Liebeck. Yes. These people are awesome. But it's crazy how all of this happens, and we're just trying to find one answer. Is there life after death? And we have to go through all of this to figure out that one little answer. It's just...
I almost feel like, and I think you're right, our brains are such powerful tools. One of my favorite instruments or things to use is the dowsing rods.
Yeah.
But I do feel that with the right energy, you can manipulate them. If you want them to say yes, they will say yes. So what I like to do, and I've done on a couple investigations, is I close my eyes and I let somebody else ask the questions. That way I don't know if it's saying yes or no, or if it's straightening out. And I always go in saying like, this is yes, this is no. But yeah, I like to close my eyes. That way I know that I myself am not manipulating it.
That's good practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's and it tends to work out. Or you have two people sit back to back with both their eyes closed and see if you get the same responses. And it kind of helps verify that it's actually real responses versus somebody maneuvering it. But yeah, soda bottles. Oh, mine have the little things that you can't really turn them. But like I said, the mind is a powerful tool. And I think with the right amount of energy, you can make anything happen. And then that thought bubble went right out the window. So
no,
I don't know what happened here.
and another thing I wanted to touch on real quick is today's demon problem. Everybody, we're okay.
Yeah.
Yes. We're okay. It's gonna be okay. Just talk to source, talk to your higher power. You'll be just fine. There are no demon things running among us. No. It's a rarity that happens. It's a very rare occurrence. And I know that seems to frighten a lot of people. So hopefully a lot of folks don't get the wrong idea of the paranormal and turn it into an occult, turn it into some kind of demonic force. It's not. It has nothing to do with that. That has to do with the clergy. Okay, that has to do with the demonologists. That has to do with the clergy. So I had to clear that, Ashley.
I 100% agree with you. I think, unfortunately, the field, because of someone that has been named in the comments, they've turned it into...
Thanks, Bill.
Entertainment factor. It's not about the experiments. It's not about the knowledge and what we're trying to gain from it. This individual is strictly looking for entertainment. Demons, true dark.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot to conjure something like that up. You would have to use perhaps a Ouija. You would have to have some kind of inexperience with the Ouija. You would have to have a lot going on. You have to go through separate stages, oppression and so forth with that. It's not just something that just because something goes, doesn't mean it's a demon.
No, my grandpa used to do that, getting out of the chair. That
bingo.
Could be a residual noise.
Bingo.
Right.
We're human. We make all kinds of crazy noises.
Yeah. Well, and, a lot of people assume that darkness and shadow work all revolve around demons and Satan and the negativity. But again, another quote that you had in the book that I absolutely loved was, you have to go through the darkness for a spiritual awakening. And, people hit that wall of bad karma and darkness. But if you can fight through that, there's so much more on the other side of it where, you start to understand yourself compared to what you were before and getting to know yourself. And it just opens up a whole different world.
It's the beauty of it was finding myself, and not only finding myself, but loving myself.
Yeah.
Because a person can hate themselves very easily. To love yourself, it takes discipline.
Yeah.
And I do that and live in the moment, and I'm okay.
Well, and we are our own worst critics. So, things that other people might not notice or pick up on, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to see whatever you think your flaws are. But, in the spiritual and paranormal world, it's okay to love those parts of us, and it's okay to be weird and dark and have intrusive thoughts and questions. And that's all accepted. And that's what I love about the community is it is very accepting.
The community, you said the key word is accepting. And that is what brought me into it. And that's why I'm still involved with it now, is because it is still accepting. No matter what, I have seen this community just recently. I've seen this community pull together.
Yes.
And
especially in the darkest of times.
And, to see those kinds of things, that's what we want. That's what we want. And it's okay. People are going to have differences. They're going to disagree. We just need to agree to disagree, move forward, and figure out how the hell this works.
Yeah. and you know, on almost like, I guess, almost a closing thought on that is, you know, you mentioned earlier that we spend all this time and all these resources looking for, is there life after death? Is there an afterlife? But I think honestly, and this is just my odd brain turning, I don't think we will ever have that answer, because once we have that answer, it takes away our drive and our curiosity, and it takes that excitement away from the field. And yes, I think we will just never, we're always going to fight for it. But I don't think just for us as humans and our own spirituality and sanity, I don't think we're ever going to have an answer until we're there.
It's that never-ending spiritual battle.
Yes, 100%. But unfortunately, here's another one I could go on for hours. But unfortunately, we are coming close to an end. But before we go, Todd, tell everybody where they can get your book.
Oh, sure. Okay. You guys can find that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books. You can get a signed copy. ToddMichaelBates.com. That's ToddMichaelBates.com. And I'll sign it for you and get it shipped out. I usually do that for you pretty quick. And the price was just recently reduced on that. I got some emails from you beautiful folks, and thank you for those. And the price has been reduced, so now everybody can afford a copy. So hopefully it helps you as much as it helped me. Thank you, Ashley.
No, thank you. And if anybody has any questions or for some reason can't find it, you know, private message me, get a hold of Todd. We'll make sure that you're able to get a copy, or that you're able to get the links. And Todd, thank you for such an incredible book. Like I said, it made me smile. It made me sad. It made me happy to be a part of this station. So thank you for everything that you do for all of us and for giving us a place to just be ourselves and to call home.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks. So you guys, it was great talking with you, and we will see you next week. Good night.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.